barbarians. And again, you're someone speaking from a place of experience. So I wanted to just kind of start it here where you write in your post, quote, BitGo is but a single voice among many Web2 organizations that exist on the governing council. And while these organizations may be experts in their respective industries, they severely lack Web3 industry knowledge needed to strategically steer a public L1 network. So let's kind of unpack that a little bit. How do you view the governing council today? How has your view on the governing council kind of changed over the years? And what's going on with that BitGo meeting and your thoughts around that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there's a lot to unpack here. And I think foundationally, a good lens to look through related to this, you cited experience in Web3 and obviously experience being at Hedera and a number of things on that front. I think the lens in which I like to look through this at is emerging technology and how that evolves and the components that are needed in order for a business or an application, or in this case, a network, to be successful in a market that is partaking in the emerging tech industry. When you look at the way that emerging technology evolves, it is it's not going to meet mainstream needs at first. It's going to undershoot user needs. It's going to look like a toy in many cases. And I think when it looks like that, it's something that's really easy to dismiss. And it's the classic innovator's dilemma when you have some enterprise companies, people that are very established, looking at a market that is emerging, that is really easy to dismiss because, oh, that looks silly. That doesn't meet mainstream needs. That's not really anything that we want to participate in or do anything with. We also don't have the risk tolerance necessarily to do that. We see it in AI. We see it in any time an emerging
it's that phrase of
around.
Like a solution in search of a problem is often said,
Right. And so what you end up seeing with emerging technology is it's an evolution, and market timing is one of the most important things when you look at an emerging tech market. And it's about trying to evolve with the market, and throughout each of these phases of evolution, meeting market needs on that timeline. And market needs are going to look very different as you evolve. Earlier on, it is going to look like meeting the needs of NFT projects or projects like Pump.fun, and you've got dog coins and sushi tokens and things like that. But I think what's most critical is that you're meeting those needs to grow adoption, and you're part of the evolutionary and innovation process, so that by the time you end up getting to a state of maturity, you will have met the needs of the market along the entire way, and then be in a place where typically what you see is the market start to eat the lunch of incumbents and enterprises, and then those enterprises collapse into the standards that have matured. And one good example of that is we saw that with stablecoins. I think stablecoins right now has achieved a level of maturity that they are now seeing interest by Visa, by large institutional organizations. There's Web2 organizations that are using stablecoins in some capacity now to manage their treasury. And so, that's one piece that I think has met sort of is meeting market maturity. But there's so much more that is sort of still in an early phase of the market that in order to be successful long-term, you just have to capitalize on that through the evolution.
Yeah, that's a really great way of illustrating it. And I think that kind of tugs on, I think, what people are feeling, which is like, there is this, you obviously can reference the Lehman Harvard talk where it's like, in the future, you're going to have 5 chains that succeed, and it'll be like the .com bubble and all this kind of stuff. And that's great and all. And it's one thing to kind of prepare for that, but it's another thing to kind of participate in it, right? Like, if you had to go back in time and participate in the .com bubble, let's say you were in Amazon or something like that, you aren't going to win by like standing on the sidelines waiting for the bubble to pop. It's like Amazon won because they were a bookstore, which could be viewed as a toy, and they were viewed as a toy. Their stock was tanking as revenue was going up. So I think that that's a really great way of looking at it. Is there is this timeline that's playing out at this deep into the fourth industrial revolution. We can kind of see how it's going to play out, but it doesn't seem effective to kind of go, well, let's just let this play out and we'll be ready when the time comes, because to be ready means putting in the blood, sweat, and tears and toys, in the time being.
And I think a part of that is, in order to meet the needs of the market as it evolves, it's heavily dependent on leadership and people who are making critical decisions for, in this case, the network, to capitalize on trends that are happening in the space, to be living day to day in the market, to really deeply understand the current state of the market, and then ultimately have a thesis about where the market is headed. And when you think about it in terms of where the market is headed, we have gone through and will be going through a significant amount of change throughout this process. Yeah. And when you think about change, when change is heavily accelerated, it's an amazing time to be able to capitalize on change. With change, you end up having a lot of disruption. And if you can sort of predict what change will take place and when it will take place, you can be prepared to be able to capitalize on that. And that starts, I think, with people who really deeply understand the current state of the market and have the vision to be able to know where it's headed and where that changes. And I guess what I'm saying too is it's not a blanket statement about every governing council member. That's not the case. There's so much nuance to this. It's not saying, oh, rip and replace. Everybody that's on there.
Get out of here, Google.
Right. It would be silly. But it is about ensuring that there's, I think, as you alluded to earlier, a better balance between companies that are maybe Web 2, but very forward looking, are doing use cases, have a stronger risk tolerance, combined with an overweight of Web 3 industry leaders that are living day to day in the market. And they're going to be making decisions based on the knowledge that they've accrued through living in the experience and strategizing for their own businesses, and ultimately and ideally helping strategize for the success of the network.